Hello everybody, Richard Michael Owen here at Owen Automotive, and we're back on the XK150 project. And we're gonna pick up from where we left off with the chassis, except we're at a turning point here. We're putting things back together. Everything's all painted, no dirt and grime. Everything's gonna be going back together and mechanically and cosmetically refurbished. So here it is, the chassis. Since we saw it last, it's been sandblasted, dry sandblasted down to bare metal, then epoxy primed and urethane top coated, so it's preserved for the ages. Now we couldn't do anything with the inside of the chassis, so after I'm done making this thing a roller, I'm gonna put cavity protection spray down inside the chassis members in every little nook and cranny I can. For instance, down in this area here, there'll be lots of cavity protection spray, and that's something the body shop can't do. They can't go spraying grease and oil in their shop. So the color choice for this gloss black was really easy, because if you look at in the last episode, you'll see there was a remnants here where there was a pad, and below the pad we could see the clear as day that this chassis was gloss black. So that's the way the chassis is going, and all the pieces and suspension components. And yeah, it's looking lovely, isn't it? Just got this big box in, and I can't wait to open it. It comes from Stuart McNeil. He runs Coventry Auto Components, and they specialize in only Jaguar XK. They sell a lot of really specialized kits, and they offer a lot of parts you can't get anywhere else. There's a lot of juicy items in this box, so I'm really excited to open it with everybody here. Holy, we got a lot of stuff. Let's see, I know which package I want to open first. Holy. Wow, look at that. Oh, wow. So what do we have here? It's an aluminum centerpiece that was fitted to only some of the very early XK150s on the drop heads. And it's a real thing of beauty. It's kind of like the early E-types. And I think it looks a lot better than having the leather all around the instruments. Look at that, Dad.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
It doesn't have the dot pattern. It has kind of the I don't know, the point pattern.
Yeah, that's nice.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's good. Really
Comes
set
with
it off.
wood. Thanks, Stuart, man. Wow, what a gift. Love the opportunity to buy that piece, and it's really going to set this car apart. That's really great. There we have it. Just laid out the whole order from Coventry Auto Components, and it'll be the first of many. I ordered this actually before we started ripping the car apart, and there's a lot more stuff that Stuart offers that I know we're really going to need. But look at that dashboard. Isn't that sweet? That's really going to set this car apart from a lot of the others. And I'll say as I assemble, I'll try to show off just how deluxe some of these kits are and how much they help when putting together a car and just having everything in one bag. That's really great. Look at all the automotive jewelry here on the bench. Just loving all these parts shining at me. A far cry from what they looked like when they came off the car, that's for sure. So I'll talk a little bit about the refurbishment process, and I'll start with the hardware here. This is the original hardware for the suspension. It's been cadmium plated. We can still do that here in Canada, sorry. And to preserve it, I just coat it in a light oil, so everything gets coated in light oil. It also helps things go back together. I don't need to use so much anti-seize, copper anti-seize. Now these uprights, aren't they a thing of beauty? Painted with all new taper surfaces. I'm really loving this process. So the process with this upright was I had the original stub axle here pressed out by the machine shop. Then they crack checked the upright just to make sure there's no damage. And from there, I got the full kit from Stuart at Coventry Auto Components. He had the nice kit that had all these little bits. I'll show you what that looked like to rebuild the lower ball joint. So I put those in, and I put on the new stub axle and put it in with this large castle nut here, a slotted nut here on the back. Then refinished it, and I think this looks really cool. I'm pretty sure that Jaguar just painted the whole suspension complete, and it kind of looked like this with black paint over all the hardware. Now, one thing I have to mention about this paint is it's pretty specific. So the first thing I do is I put a really, really thin coat of sealer epoxy on it. You can kind of see it on these threads here. Just a very, very sealer coat of epoxy. Then a really, really super thin coat of black urethane. And I try not to get any paint on the mating surfaces. So underside here, it'll just be the epoxy. It kind of shows on these threads here, actually. If you look, you can see on these U-bolts, the urethane on the top, and the very thin coat of epoxy on the bottom. So it's a very specific process to paint suspension. You can't just go and paint everything all black or powder coat it all and expect it to fit. You don't want much paint on these surfaces which all made or that bolts go onto. And yeah, so the last thing I want to say is I stamped all these components left and right side. I'm sure glad I did, because my friend Bob showed me a page from XK150 Explored, and these are handed on the car. They have to go back on the same side. So I'm gonna put those on the car first. I gotta put these bushings in. See, I kind of cleaned out the chamfer there. Got the washer that fits on just barely nicely. See how this goes in. Got my big hammer. Get it centered on there, and let's do this. There it is. Okay, got the first parts on the car. Got these pivot shafts that take these rubber bushes for the suspension, and they're really specific, especially the lower ones here. You can see it's way further forward. It's in with some dowel bolts. I'll show you what they look like. I left them on the chassis so that it would still be the same geometry when it went back on. Same with these spacers. These are the exact same spacers I took off the car. They're all CAD plated, so it's sitting in the correct position. So next I want to go over to the bench. We'll see. I'm going to build up the upper and lower control arms, and hopefully today get those wonderful looking spindles and stub axles on. All right, time to make the lower control arm, lower wishbone assembly. It attaches with these metalastic bushes into those shaft pivots that we just installed. And yeah, I think it's going to be a fairly straightforward process. Got all the hardware here. I just cleaned out these bushes where it has the radius, so it might slide on a little easier. And I have to use one of the big nuts right here to kind of force it in. So yeah, let's see how this goes. All right, let's see how smooth this goes. I got my wishbone lever here. It can go in the bush that's already installed. Put my new bush in. I actually didn't need to carve up the paint there. I'm gonna tap it home. Make sure not to mar the threads. Looks pretty good. Got the special nut. And the slotted nut, I got new ones just in case they tend to corrode. They're right in the front of the car. Yeah, it's all pretty easy, isn't it? Okay, got this lower control arm assembled. Now I have to leave these bushes loose. They can't be tightened until the full weight of the car is on them. Then it'll squeeze together and hold it in that position. But I just got word the body's back from dry blasting over with Jason at Jetstream, so let's go have a look. All right, here we are back at Jetstream. This is Jason.
How you doing?
And we're gonna have a look at the body freshly blasted. It's been dry blasted, sand blasted, down to white metal. So the truth is in the metal. Let's see what we got. What do you think, Jay?
Well, it's actually a pretty clean Jag. It's got a little bit of rust in the headlights, which we were expecting, and could see a little bit of popping through there. So we're gonna do a little bit of damage control there.
Yeah.
There's a bit of lead that's gonna have to come out.
There's a lot of lead everywhere.
Yeah.
Look at all the lead in here.
So you can see from the inside of the a few dents here.
A few dents, small dents, but looking pretty honest lines, you know.
At the end of the
What do
day,
you call that? True curve.
Can't really complain. It's probably the best Jag we've had come out of the blast.
Yeah, look at all the lead in here. They've really done a lot of shaping. It doesn't look like any corrosion in this area. That's nice.
No, it's pretty clean.
All around the windshield area there. That's nice. There, look at the roof. Looks like a lot of good curves there. No issues. Okay, wow, look at this. So this is new to me. Look at this. So a bit of corrosion up and in here. So maybe a small patch.
I'll just cut that out and fill it, you know, make a small patch. You don't even know it's there. And we've got a little bit of damage on the corner here. Obviously got tagged at one point. In its
light
life,
tap,
you
look
know?
at that, very
a
light.
Little love tap, that's not bad.
Yeah, no ugly holes to pull it back out or anything.
Got a few holes in the boot.
Yeah, we knew we were going to replace this, but yeah, look at, this is why we're replacing the lower trunk area. Look at all the holes
see
in
from
there.
underneath as well.
We got all the new patch panels, so those are going in real fast. Go to the driver's side.
We got the same little bit of corrosion right here.
Yeah, look at that. I guess the moisture just gets held inside or something, eh? Right there.
It's the wheel well. It's getting spit up right there. Stuff seems to clump, and then we got a little lead work there. That's factory, right? Just sitting there.
Yeah, and this fender looks really nice.
This one's nice.
Wow, geez, that looks awesome. Then inside here, what you would expect. Big cross member there, a lot of strength in the firewall. And yeah, it looks really nice and clean here. This is gonna look beautiful once it's all painted white.
Yeah.
It's gonna look totally mint. And I think we're gonna go white underneath now, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think
Yeah.
that would look good. I think mostly it was painted white factory overspray, right? So we're gonna
Well,
get in there. You can take a look. There's a little corrosion underneath here, you know. to the
Oh,
headlight
really? Okay.
And the bottom corner.
Oh yeah,
But
look at that.
the
We
very
might have to
bottom,
get in there, you know.
We're gonna have to.
Well, that's really awesome. Thanks, Jay. This looks really good.
No problem. We'll be cracking into it this afternoon.
Awesome. Cheers. Time to do the upper wishbones. Pretty simple assembly. What do we got here? We have some sealed ball joints from TRW, pretty maintenance free like those. We have lock tabs, we have caster shims. Let's see what they look like on the car. Okay, cleaned out all my tapers. Now we can put the upright in. Sweet. Looking forward to this. Really coming together now. Got the steering link on here, the caliper link. This stub axle is just looking so nice. This beautiful new tapered surface. I'll just kick it around here. You can see all the original hardware, CAD plated. Even got the right thin washer in there. And that's really part of what I like to do, is keep everything organized, plate everything, put it right back where it came. It makes these restorations so much more accurate and a lot faster to put together. So got to get the torsion bar suspension in place. So here's the long torsion bars and the spline muff and the adjuster system that accepts it on both sides. Now these things are labeled offside and near side. I'll show you what that looks like. That's for right and left side. It's important to have to go back on the way they came. And actually they're stamped on the back side, on the side that's towards the rear of the car. We just see what it looks like here all together. You can see you can adjust this barrel nut. It kind of slides along these big pins, these barrel nuts do. And that gives you a bit of adjustment for your ride height, which is really nice. And it's kind of hard to see in the car, so if you ever look at it here, you can kind of see how it works. It actually attaches to the frame of the body and just pivots around. Look at that, the torsion bars are in. I'll show you my method. I kind of just tucked the torsion bar into the rear spline. Then I kind of fooled around with the front splined muff and got it on until it was just right. And all the markings I made when I took it apart all lined up. And that was critical. That gave me the factory setting. Now, if I didn't have the factory setting, I'd be looking at a measurement from the shock absorber mount up here to down here. And on an XK140 and 150 at rest, that's about 14 and a quarter, 14 and a half inches. I've seen both mentioned, and that isn't mentioned in the shop manual whatsoever. So it's a really good thing to note. You can see the adjustment system here kind of cleaned up. I think I got to put it about halfway, and that's where this was when I got the car, probably the original factory setting. So once we get the motor, the body, all the weight on this, we'll do some final adjustments and get the ride height just where we want. Yeah, we're going all the way with this one. New hubs, you can see the used one right here. Got the new felt washers, retainers. Got the new bearings, NTN, made in Japan from Stewart at Coventry Auto. He left the part numbers on there, look at that. So there's the larger one, the smaller one, if anybody wants to get the similar ones. Got the dewashers. Let's put these on the car. All right, got the hub here. You can see this one's the left-hand side. It's stamped LH. My dad just wanted to make sure that those letters aren't raised, so we're just gonna file them lightly. Make sure that none of that stamping is protruding and causing the hub to wobble around. The rotor, sorry, to wobble around. So we put the bearing races in. My dad helped me tap those in. I think if I was doing it again on a new hub, they're pretty tight, so I'd freeze the bearing race and heat up the hub and drop them in. Yes, we got it packed. Wheel bearing here. I'm gonna get my fingers greasy. Where are my gloves? So it can go in there like that. Next, I have to worry about the felt seal. So what this is gonna do is it's just gonna tap in right here over top. Actually, it doesn't tap in, it's just gonna sit there. And this felt now, I gotta make sure it's very accurately positioned. This is a fairly large felt. So I'm gonna actually glue it in here into position so it doesn't foul the fitting of the hub. All right, gonna put the hub unit onto the stub axle. Now I don't have the rotors, they aren't here, and Jason needs his chassis right away to drop the body on it. So I'm just gonna tap this thing on now. That means I won't be setting up the wheel bearings. But my friend Bob, he told me that these XK150s have a different wheel bearing setting of 3 to 5 thou. So that's something to note if you're putting a car together. Look at that, suspension's coming together. It's basically complete minus the sway bar and the front discs rotors. So what can I say? Yeah, we got the Coney Classic adjustable shock absorbers, put it to the softest setting. This isn't a race car, we want it nice and comfortable. Now the steering rack is one thing that we didn't rebuild. It had already been rebuilt, but I have a secret piece of tech here from Stuart at Coventry Auto Components. It's this little kit. You can kind of see it down in here. I have it lit up. And what it does is it is a safety. So if the metalastic rubber shears off, it'll still hold the rack. And I think it's a cheap little upgrade and a necessary one. And I'm going to put it in all my XKs that I do. So thanks, Stuart, for that piece. And what else can I say? Oh, yeah, well, when I put in the tie rod ends, I made sure that the tapers were really clean. Always clean your tapers and don't put anything in them. Definitely, that's the way to go. So with the front end pretty much complete, you can see the torsion bars running down here to the adjuster bar, all nicely cleaned up. It's onto the rear end. So here we are. Here's the Salisbury rear end. This rear end has been completely rebuilt, and then I painted it kind of all as one piece in gloss black, and it's looking just splendid. So this got all new bearings, all new seals, and it was done by an absolute expert here in town, so I know that's going to be good. And I also have new springs here. So these are really high-end springs. It says BCC suspension, manufactured by Owen Manufacturing. These things were really nice. I just gave them a little bit of oiling while they're still kind of expanded while they're sitting here. Try to get oil in between the leaf springs to make them perform well. Then we just go over to the bench here. And we can see here another kit by Stuart at Coventry Auto. Look at this. It's a spring fitting kit. I got everything I need basically to put those springs on right here. And if I want to, I can use some of the old hardware. So I'm going to use the best of both kits. Stuart's kit here includes the spacer washer, which gives the rear axle the right angle to match the gearbox. Super important stuff. So glad to have this. Let's start installing this on the car. Just about to set the axle up into place. I wanted to show you a bit of the process. Just attach the springs at the front here, and the big spacer washer there goes to the inside. And then I put the axle onto the springs and the saddle here and had to make sure my wedge is in there. The thick end of the wedge goes to the rear. So yeah, let's jack this thing up in there. Okay, I'm a little bit off the mark. I need a little bit more length in these springs to get to the shackle. And my dad has this bar. I'm just going to clamp the straight bar onto it, flatten out the spring a little bit. That'll let me reach the shackle and get this thing installed. Okay, that's really kind of straightened out the bar. Now I have a hope of actually getting this into place. Nearly there. Okay, everybody, we're here back at Jetstream. Remember Jason?
How you guys doing?
We're going to show you around his progress here, painting the underside of the XK150. Wow, look at this, man. Holy. What a far cry from what it looked like originally. With so much tar and undercoater up and in there. Look at all this beautiful paint. Wow, doesn't that look great?
Looks pretty mint.
Yeah, awesome. Holy. Wow, and you can see here all the new pieces you guys put in.
Yeah, everything on the back here, all this is brand new.
Wow, that looks really nice. Holy.
Other than that, I mean, it was a pretty nice car. So we're basically ready to bolt this thing back on the chassis, and then we can work on the outside, fitting the doors and bodywork and making it all good.
Wow, look how clean it all is in here. This takes a lot of just manual labor to clean this all out and then paint it and prep it. Looks really awesome. Wow, terrific. So I gotta get going on that chassis so I can lower this thing down onto it and continue the outer body work.
That's right, a clean slate. Outside is in epoxy primer, so it's sealed up and ready for some filler and some body.
Okay, well thanks, man. Okay, well I'll bring that chassis over soon.
Let's get her done.
Okay, this XK150 is a roller. Look at that, got the wheels and tires on. and just doing some final touches before it goes back to Jason's in the body shop for the body to go back on. And one of them is the wiring harness. Some of the wiring harness actually runs through the right hand chassis member, so I wanted to make sure that that was in there. And my last step here is to make kind of a mess. I should have done this maybe beforehand, but that's put cavity protection spray inside the chassis. I'll show you what that looks like. I hope not too much sand comes out, but I tried to tape up as much as I could just to avoid sand getting into areas I don't want. Okay, so let's get this thing greased. Okay, got that messy job done, and I'm really happy I did. I'll show you what it looked like when I turned this chassis upside down and how much rust fell out of the shock tower. And this is from a California car that was totally rust free. So yeah, these things rust from the inside out, and I think it's really important to protect them from the inside out. And really, if you have a chassis with any rust in any of these main areas right here, it's time for a replacement. Okay, let's take this thing over to Jason's and Jetstream. All right, rolled it over to Jetstream here. Hopefully on Monday we'll catch up with Jason and the guys and see what the marriage looks like and drop the body onto the frame. All right, well that does it for this episode of the Jaguar XK150 project. I'll leave everybody here with a shot of the body now mounted to the chassis at Jetstream. And I just love this high contrast look, the cream paint underneath the body. That's the finished coat with the finished chassis. I think it looks marvelous. I'm so glad we painted it white underneath. And now what this is going to do is it's going to enable Jason and the guys at Jetstream to do all the outer body work, get it all correct, get the gaps correct, get the lines correct with the body on the chassis, and it's going to stay there and it's going to maintain that body work. And I want to give credit to the people that did all the hard work here. This includes Todd at Fox Blasting. He really got all the old undercoat out from underneath the body and blasted the whole underside of the car to bare metal, and that was a tremendous job. And then Sean at Jetstream, he just paints better than anybody I know, and he did such a fabulous job underneath this car, and I can't wait to see what it's going to look like on the top. Okay, well that does it for this episode. If you have any tips, tricks, comments, or trade secrets, I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay, see you later. Bye-bye.